Hi guys, and welcome to another video. I figured it would be kind of nice to do a quick walkthrough of the differences between the new iPhones versus the old iPhone. And I'm going to refer to the old iPhone as iPhone 5 and the new iPhones as the 5S and the 5C. You may know the iPhone 5 was discontinued by Apple, so there is no longer the ability for you to purchase an iPhone 5. Although if you go to some third-party retailers, you probably still can find some. So Apple released a replacement for the 5 called the 5C. They claim that the 5C is essentially the replacement of the 5 with some enhancements. For example, the 5C still has the same A6 chip that the old iPhone had, has the same display, still has Siri, still has the 8 megapixel camera, still records 1080p HD video. They noted some improvements to the LTE radios, where now the 5C will be able to pick up additional LTE signals, whatever that means. I didn't know there was more than one, but yeah, still do Wi-Fi and 3G and all of those things. That's all not different. Talk times and browsing times and standby times have increased. The iPhone 5, you can get 8 hours of 3G and LTE, or no, I'm sorry, 10 hours of Wi-Fi and 225 hours of standby. And on the iPhone 5C, you get 10 hours on LTE and Wi-Fi and 8 hours on 3G, which is interesting because it tends to work the other way around, where on LTE it would drain the battery more, so you should be getting less on the LTE and more on the 3G. But again, I'm not going to argue what was published by them. And the standby time is now 250 hours, so you actually get another half an hour of standby time. They never do go over the kind of battery that they're using. You know, I don't know why they can't just tell you what milliamperage the battery is, but that's, you know, besides the point. The only other thing that is new with the 5C, which is the 5 replacement, is that it does not come in 64 gigabyte configuration. It is only in a 16 gigabyte and 32 gigabyte configuration, and they don't come in standard colors. They come in like a rainbow of colors, if you will. It has white and red and yellow, blue and green, with like a plastic back casing. So, you know, for somebody out there that may be interested or was interested in an iPhone 5, may be interested in the 5C. The 16 gigabyte model goes for $99, and the 32 gigabyte model goes for $199, and this is of course with a 2-year contract. Again, it's a good alternative for those who are looking to get an iPhone 5. They can now get a 5C, which is slightly better than the 5, and it'd be a little cheaper, about $100 cheaper. So let's talk about iPhone 5S, which is really the one that we're all thinking about because it's the better iPhone. First of all, it comes in 3 different colors, and they've changed the coloring names. So there's 2 white models now. There's a white model with a silver backing, and there is a white phone with a gold backing. So they call them silver and gold. The gold phone is very difficult to find, so I wouldn't recommend finding it, but you could probably order it through Apple, and they claim they're shipping them in November. So if you really want a gold-plated iPhone, you can. And then they have the black iPhone, which is their slate color. Actually, I don't think they call it slate anymore. I'm pretty sure they changed the name. I'm just reminiscent of the color of the name slate. This iPhone comes in 3 configurations: 16, 32, and 64 gigabytes, which is same as the previous version. Same pricing for 2-year contracting: $199, $299, $399. A lot of improvements with the 5S. First and most visible improvement is the Touch ID. So like if I'll show you the Touch ID on this phone, notice there's no little dialogue telling you that it's a touch button anymore. The button is actually not as recessed as in previous models, because what they did is they implemented something called Touch ID. So instead of pushing the phone, typing your 4-digit passcode, you can simply just place your finger over the sensor and it will actually unlock your phone for you. Of course you would program that in advance, but it's a very nifty piece of technology. Also, the chips in the iPhone 5S are much better. It is their A7 chip with 64-bit architecture, so it just means that it's a better processor and it runs faster. Which is really what it is. And they also include the M7 Motion coprocessor. So yes, folks, this new iPhone 5S has 2 processors. Of course, the A7 is the main processor, and probably the way they programmed it, they didn't go into too many details, but the M7 Motion processor probably offloads the A7 chip a bit on some of the graphic things and the Touch ID and you know, some of the new 64-bit architecture stuff that's being implemented with the new phone. It's still a 4-inch display. That's a Retina display, 1136 by 640 resolution, 326 pixels per inch. You still have Siri. The camera was improved a bit, although it's still an 8-megapixel camera. Although the aperture rating is now at a 2.2, which is good. The lower the number, the better it is. In the previous version, the aperture rating was 2.4. Still has the a flash on the back, but if you notice, and you may not notice because I have this one in the cover, the flash is a little different than this one, because what they implemented was a true tone flash. So there's actually 2 different flashes in that little unit, and when you take a picture with a flash, it actually flashes both of them and kind of reads the temperature of the setting that you're in and picks the best flash setting for you. Some of these other things are all the same, talking about autofocus and face detection, panoramic mode, things like that. They talk about the photo, the burst mode, which is something new. So you can actually take multiple pictures with one push. Like if you're taking pictures and you want to see 10 pictures in a row or whatever it is, you push and it goes and it takes all the pictures, which is a new feature, but that's all software. As part of the video recording feature of the new iPhone 5S, they've implemented something new here where they talk about 120 frames per second slow motion recorder. So what that is you record with the camera, and then you can with the phone, and then you can edit and slow down the video to 120 frames per second. So it's actually kind of a geeky and cool kind of thing. So like if you want to catch an action shot and you want to slow it down so you can actually see it progress, it'll actually be kind of cool. The zoom is new. With video recording, you could not zoom in. I remember this from the 5 because I used to do vlogs. When I did video, you couldn't zoom in to do the video. So it's nice that they included a 3x zoom for the video now. I mean, for the camera, you could always do it for pictures, but not for video. All the other things are the same. They claim that the FaceTime camera was improved, although it really is the same 1.2 megapixel camera with 720p HD recording. So this is the front-facing camera. They claim there is a new backside illumination sensor. So I guess what that means is that it makes the front-facing camera sense the light and adapt accordingly, so that sometimes when you're taking pictures in not so optimally lit conditions, it will actually do that better. FaceTime is still included, obviously, and it still does the same with all different iPhones. You can use FaceTime over Wi-Fi or LTE. That's not changed, that's the same. Speaking of LTE, they added more bands for the LTE so that you are able to capture more LTE signals on the new iPhones versus the old one. Everything else is the same. One thing to note for you guys, if you're following up on Wi-Fi, there's a new Wi-Fi band called C that is coming out, but this phone does not have that new chipset in there. It's still 802.11a, b, g, and n. Pretty much still white standard everywhere. There is a new band C coming out, but I'm surprised because they implemented, they deployed a new what's it called? Time capsule unit that actually supports the C band. So that's kind of interesting that they didn't implement it in the phone, but they probably didn't have. They probably have to go and test it out and make sure it works. So I think for the next iPhone, it'll probably be included. We talked about the battery life already with the 5C. That's pretty much going to be the same with the 5S. You're going to get 10 hours of talk time on 3G. You're going to get 10 hours on LTE and Wi-Fi browsing, you know, time, internet time, if you will, and 8 hours on 3G networks. You're going to get 250 hours of standby time, whereas on the old one you can only get 225. So there are some improvements. It's not like a wow, like, oh my god, this is so much better. Little tiny improvements. The biggest feature of the iPhone 5S is the Touch ID. For the 5C, there really isn't anything new other than the design of the case. So it's actually like a plastic case, but it's really like a iPhone 5. So if you didn't have an iPhone 5 and you wanted to upgrade to 5, then you could probably get the 5C and get away with it. Okay, so now that I've talked about all the boring specs, here are my 2 cents on it. If you have a very old iPhone, maybe like an iPhone 4, you definitely should upgrade to at least a 5C, since it's a budget model, as they claim. You'll get a newer phone, but it won't be top of the line. If you can spare the extra dollars, I would just go get the 5S if you're coming from an older iPhone. If you have the iPhone 5, would you upgrade? If you can afford it, why not? I don't really think it's that much of an upgrade, to be honest with you. If you upgrade from 5 to 5S, there aren't many improvements other than a new processor and the Touch ID and a couple of little softer things, but it's not the biggest upgrade in the world. I upgraded to it only because I was coming from the Android, from the Galaxy S4, so I didn't have the iPhone. If I had still my iPhone 5, I probably would have kept it and we just waited till the next revision. You know, everybody's case is different, so it really depends on what you want in your phone. So if you want to play with Touch ID and you want a better processor, and you like the new talk times and standby times and all of this, then by all means upgrade to the 5S. I'm curious to see if my battery issues will recur with the 5S as they did with the 5. Being that it's a new phone right now, real-time use, I'm getting about the same that I was getting on my Galaxy S4, which is pretty impressive, given that I would go out to the gym and come back and my phone was practically dead. So that's much of an improvement already. But you know, the phone is only a few days old, so it's not really real world use until I've used it for a couple of weeks. You know, the iOS 7 is just wonderful, and I think you need at least an iPhone 5C to experience the full experience that iOS 7 offers. If you're using anything other than that, I would suggest to upgrade to at least a 5C. I don't know why Apple's still selling 4S. I mean, that just makes no sense. I know people that have 4S and they upgraded to the iOS 7, and now their user experience is very slow. Anyway, so those are my thoughts. If you guys have any questions that you want to ask me directly, by all means leave those in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and share and comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.